Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the fourth episode of The Shape of Your Tree. Today, I'm going to do something different. I have several letters that I received a few years ago, and it's kind of I have not read them. I read a couple of them, which sent me into a relapse. And today, when I was looking for the letters, I found this in my letterbox. So, it caused me to relapse again. So what I want to do is do this journey with you. I have a book called Robbing Peter, Not Paying Paul. So a lot of this stuff is in that book. It is my autobiography, but my counselor said it's a very sugar-coated version of my autobiography. And so let me give you a little backstory. I was in foster care for about 4 years. Went through 7 or 8 foster homes. I was the oldest of 6 girls that were adopted out. Well, 6 girls that went into foster care and then were adopted out. And I met my mom when I was 15 and a half years old, and that was in March of 1979. And I made sure that she understood that I was 15 and a half, almost 16. And in Colorado, where I was living at the time, once you became 16 years old, it was like the emancipation, but I think it was a precursor to emancipation. They were going to set me up with my own apartment, help me get a job, all those things, which is really good that they did not, because I don't know if I'd be alive today if it had worked out that way. But my mom, I told her, my name is Denise, and I'm 15 and a half, almost 16, because I wanted her to understand that I was an adult. However, saying that, like 10 years ago, I called my mom on the phone and I'm crying. I said, Mom, I still need my mom. I'm still not an adult. I need my mom. And she has been, I think she has been my biggest supporter, and I'm so grateful for my mom. So anyway, what I wanted to do is kind of tell you a little bit about my story as we go through the episodes, as we have other people share. Mine is kind of, it's a challenging story. And I do want to sugarcoat things, but I'm trying to be completely authentic, which is very difficult because I learned over the years to put on that facade for everybody, including myself, which makes it very difficult for me sometimes to even look at myself in the mirror. And it's very difficult for me to do these podcasts because I don't really like looking at myself. But I do want you engaged, which is why I'm looking at the camera. So anyway, I think what I want to do is start with a poem that I had written for my father a long time ago that should set this whole story up. It is entitled, I Spill Water. So it goes, glass shatters, water spills. I tremble as the belt strikes, snake striking prey. At school, I try to hide the marks, the signature of my father, proof that he loves me. And I usually do a lot of tongue-in-cheek kind of things, so I wanted to convey in that poem that I didn't understand why my father would abuse me the way he did. He and as a child, you don't understand. As an adult, as a mother and a grandmother, I have a lot more wisdom. Still not understanding, but I have more wisdom. Well, I hope I have more wisdom. So anyway, what I wanted to do was start with my my sponsor and I went through and we labeled these by year. So what I'm going to do is start sharing these because I have been afraid. This is one of the things that I have put on that back burner and I did not want to address, but it's something that I need to address. So today I have 2 postcards and a letter. I was just looking at them. So I have 2 postcards and a letter. And the letter is dated January 11th. So I'm going to end with this one today. But I'll start with the first postcard that I got. So what happened was we had a memorial. My father's oldest sister passed away, and my beautiful mother, ever, always so supporting of me, took me out to see my family, and she got to meet my cousins and my a couple of one of my aunts and my cousins and their children and so on and so forth. But um, it she got to learn. She was educated in how I became the way I became. So anyway, this is my father. He went into the Navy when he was 17 years old. And this is the first thing that I have. It's January 7th of 19. Oh, sorry. We don't want 1958. We want 1957. So I did that wrong. That's a 58 too. Oh my goodness, Denise. 58, 58. Oh, I did it wrong here. Hold on. Let me see. I had a 1957. I'm not sure where I put it. Oh, goodness. Well, I guess I'll just start with 1958, and then there was only one from 1957. I just don't know where I put it. So I'll start with the 1958. So it says January 7th, 1958. My father sends to my grandparents, "Dear Mom and Pop and kids." He always referred to his siblings as kids. "I made it to here in one piece and hope I leave in the same. I passed my physical this morning and leave for SD, so I'm assuming that's San Diego, in the morning. Love, Junior." The next postcard, look at how cool these are. So see, we have a postcard, and it is January 8th of 1958. "Dear Mom and Pop, we have just taken off from San Diego, and the next stop is El Paso. I never heard any better words in my life than when the man said, 'Well, that's it. You're in the Navy. Now, congratulations. Tell everyone hello, and I will write as soon as I get settled, Junior.'" So that was my father sending that to my grandparents. And to fill in some more of the backstory, my grandparents, my grandmothers were sisters. So my parents were first cousins, yada, 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 all the stigma that goes with all that stuff. So this is January 11th, 1958. And like I said, I'm really nervous about reading these, but I'm kind of grateful. I don't know what this is, but oh, that's kind of cool. I told you I haven't really looked at these because I got off on. So I have this on it, and this is on the back. It says "You and yours." You in the service. Oh, that's really cool. It's talking about the Red Cross. So Red Cross, look at, that's kind of cool. And then the letter, and it's very difficult for me to read my father. Oh, it looked like something took a bite out of it, literally. So we'll try to work with that. "Dear Mom and Pop, this is my third day in camp, and so far we haven't done anything but get shots and clothes. We have 3 weeks at the camp I am in now, Nimitz. After that, we may be treated like humans. I didn't think it would get too lonely up here, but I didn't know the half of it. It looks like Granny may have been right." And then we have the big hole. So I'm not sure what he was trying to say there. Something you all must be, I think of you guys every spare minute I have. Most of the time we are too busy to think. Tell the kids I love them all, even if they won't believe it. You don't know how lonely it can get away from everyone you love, and you know you can't go to them. I hope all the kids are doing okay in school. Tell Granny and Granddad I love them and I'm sorry. I always acted like I'm not sure what that is, Oh, I'm still not sure what it is. H.A. dot. I don't know how much time I have left to write. They are just sending a man to request permission to come to Chow. You hardly have any time to write. In fact, this is the first chance I've had. And then we have the whole um, something, my clothes to the Navy. I'm not sure. I kept folding that folding toothbrush to remember Pop by. I don't have anything to remember you by, but Mom, but that is enough. They are all good. I'm not quite sure what he was trying to say there. Be sure to tell everyone to write because it is lonely up as hell as up here. My address is, and then he gives his address and all of his information. I will finish later. Have to go to Chow. Oh, well, here I am again. We had Chow, and I am full up to the top. Since we ate, I feel like a completely new person. Tell Pop I am going to try to send him an allotment. I don't know whether I can or not. I don't have but a little with which to write, so I better close off. I'll write again as soon as I can. Lots of love, Junior. So my father was the oldest boy, but I think he was the fourth child out of six. No, he must have been the third. I think there were only six children, and he was the oldest boy. But my father was a very creative man. He was actually a genius. He created a lot of different things when he was in the Navy. And I remember when he passed away, he had a, and I'm not mechanical, so this is kind of goes over my top of my head, literally. It was called a non-cavitating water pump, which he was trying to push to work with cold fusion, and he was working on that for a jet ski. So my father was very smart, and um, so he was not like his brother, and his brother was young and tough, and he was a what they would call a man's man, or a man's boy, because he was that rough and tough guy. My father was creative. I remember when I would right before I think I was like 9 or 10 years old, and he had this Levi jacket, and he embroidered this huge rose and vines and everything on the back of it. And then he had a second rose, and he had a butterfly. And my father, you could not see what was the inside or outside because he was so meticulous about it. And I wanted my father's approval so badly that I learned to do that. In fact, I was my mom's fifth child, but my father's first. So when they talk about the role of the family, well, I was screwed up from the time I was born. Actually, I was born at 2 pounds, so I've been a fighter my whole life. Heavenly Father has given me, He's given me life through and through and through, over and over and over again. You know, even with my bad choices, I'm still here, and I'm here because I want to be able to help other people that go through the same struggles and that might not be able to have a voice of their own. I want them to be able to come onto this podcast and be able to express themselves. And they don't have to show their face. We can just, but I do realize that people want something to see, not just hear. So that is why I'm on the podcast video, because when I did my first podcast, I did a video, and then the second and third episodes were just audio. And I didn't receive a lot of views that way. And so I realized that people want to connect, and they cannot connect with just the voice alone. So, but today I am going to go to the Instagram. I'm trying to learn how to use social media because I'm an old school person. I like pen and paper. I like books. I like to be able to touch and feel, and sometimes the electronic device is not it's not satisfying to me. So I really really am excited about doing this journey with you. I'm excited that I am going to be checking in with you on a daily basis. That'll keep me in check as I read these letters. These letters, I think, are very important to my journey, to my growth. When I picked up the couple of letters, when I received the letters when I went to Texas, I think I read two of them, and one was from my father telling my mom that um, he was tired of whatever she was doing, and that he was leaving. He was taking my sisters and I think there were three of us at the time. That he was taking the three of us and leaving, and not to worry, that we'd be taken care of, that kind of thing. And then, what was the other thing I was going to tell you? Anyway, I don't remember, and I don't know why the TV just came on. But I really am grateful for the journey I've had, because I would not be here with, hold on. Well, sometimes in my recovery program, they say, you make plans and God laughs. Well, I have to tell you, I absolutely believe that, because I've been trying to get this podcast done. I keep getting interrupted. I have a new puppy, and she's a Tasmanian devil. She's still trying to learn how to go outside, although she does a really good job. She's only 10 weeks old, so I think she does a really good job for her age. But she thinks I'm her chew toy, by the way. So anyway, getting back to the podcast, when my father took us away, I told you that I read this letter that said, I'm done. I'm taking the girls. But it wasn't until years and years later, a few years ago, I spoke with my older sister, and I never understood it from her perspective. And that was when we left, my father left my older siblings behind. And she said, I was crushed. I didn't know, he had been a part of our life for almost 4 years at that point, I guess. And he took us three younger ones. And so I'm sure, as I think about that, that would make me feel less than. And so anyway, what I'm trying to learn in my recovery program is to stay in my own lane, which is very difficult at times because I'm a protector. I never was able to protect myself, but if necessity required me to be a protector for somebody else, I was always that protector. I didn't care if it was going to hurt me or not. I would always protect that other person. And so through my recovery program, I am learning to grow all the time. And I always have a lot of new insights. When I think I've done, I'm done with this one, guess what? I'm not done. And so I'm back at my first step again, because my life does become unmanageable at times, and I still want to hold on to that control, and I still don't want to let my higher power have control. And that is a lesson in itself for me, because I realize it doesn't make any difference how much time you have if you're not willing to admit that you have no control, that somebody else's or a higher power is in control. And that's so it's not somebody here on this realm that has control. Somebody outside of this realm is in control. I'm okay with that. But if I think that somebody else in this realm has control, I have issues with that. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I hope you guys really liked the podcast today, and I really would like to do this journey with you. I do remember, I did want to say earlier that one of the letters I had read was from my mother, and she had said there's something wrong with her, you know, and she wanted to seek out a psychiatrist. I wasn't even 3 years old yet. And the other one for my mother was I was born in 1963, 2 pounds. And my mother had sent a letter to my grandmother. Remember, there's no cell phones or videos, none of that stuff. It was all old school. So snail mail, which means letter, stamp, put it in the mailbox, and hopefully you get it. And but my mother had said, I told you my grandmothers were sisters. So she sent a letter to my paternal grandmother saying, Aunt Lucille, do you know where Denise is? And I'm thinking to myself, how can a mother not know where her child is? I was not even 3 months old, a total of 3 months old yet. And I was a 2-pound baby. So I just never understood that. But, oh, and before I forget this, my father, so I went and saw my father. So my mother passed away in I think it was 87. And my most beautiful mom took me to her funeral. And then I saw my father a few years before he died. And I asked him, I said, Daddy, I always felt like you and Mama didn't want me. And he said, we didn't. We had to get married because of you. And so even as harsh as that sounds, it gave me validation for those feelings that I felt growing up my whole life, that I knew that they didn't want me. But every child after I was born seemed to be the highlight of the family, and they weren't treated like I was. My sister told me I was the whipping child, and I was. I didn't like going to school. I had bruises up and down my back, around my arms. I didn't want to dress out for PE because I knew that the kids would laugh and talk about me. And in those days, they didn't have the laws that they have in place now. And so it's been a difficult journey, but I can say I am grateful for my journey, because I would not be here right now talking to you about all these things that are unspeakable. You're not supposed to talk outside of the house. And so I used to do a lot of writing. I still do a lot of writing, but I wrote my truth down on paper. And so sometimes when people are trying to tell me, no, I can go back to the words that I wrote and realize that was my truth. That was my perception at the time. And so I don't feel bad anymore, because I always doubted myself, because people, especially when I started the drink, I didn't start drinking until I was 46 years old. And when I started drinking, you know, my memories would be, even though before drinking, people would still make me say, oh, did I remember that right? So I do have to say, everybody has their own perception. And so that means that you have 4 people that experience the same thing. They're all going to have a different perception of what happened at that time. It doesn't make it bad or good. It's just their perception of that experience. And that is what I'm learning in my journey. And I hope that y'all will keep tuning in and listening, because I really want to share. I really want us to grow. I want us to have a voice, because I never felt like I had a voice. And with saying that, I'm going to sign off for today. And tomorrow I'm really excited, because I get to go to Las Vegas and interview somebody that is absolutely incredible. And he will be the episode 5 on the shape of your tree. So tune in. We'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.